Life likes to grab you by the collar and say, "I'm always with you, kid, let's go." Maya Angelou. Life is not some vague, aimless current drifting into nothingness. It has shape, it has hands, it has eyes. It actively comes looking for us, pulls us upright amid the chaos, and reminds us that we are never alone on this journey. "I'm always with you," that is the quiet promise of time, of opportunity, and even of the challenges we face. No matter how thick the morning mist still veils the path ahead, no matter how many failures scrape our feet like sharp stones, life remains right there, never leaving our side. It never promises a path of roses, but it does promise to walk with us. And that call of "let's go" rings out like a drumbeat at the start of a march, like the first light breaking through night, urging us forward instead of looking back at what is past. The spirit of courage. When life grabs us by the collar, we are forced to lift our heads and face it. That is the moment we realize we have a choice. Either thrash about in fear or smile and step forward alongside life itself. The second attitude is the key that opens the door to true maturity. Because when we accept life's guidance, we also learn to trust ourselves. Every day is an adventure waiting to be discovered. Life does not stand outside watching us. It joins in every breath, every dream. And when we hear that call of "let's go," we know we are ready to walk forward with the faith that no matter what lies ahead, we have an invisible companion always holding our collar, pulling us toward the light. Eternity is created from the present moments. Emily Dickinson. We often think eternity is something distant and everlasting, like a 1,000-year mountain range or as deep as a boundless ocean. But in truth, eternity is not waiting at the far horizon. It is woven from the ordinary seconds passing right before our eyes, like delicate threads quietly forming the tapestry of time. Every present moment is a single grain of sand in the hourglass of life. When we laugh with someone, when we silently watch the rain fall, when we bravely rise after a fall, all of these are the pieces that create what we call forever. Eternity does not appear suddenly like a miracle. It is the result of countless moments we have lived fully. If we are indifferent to the present, eternity becomes hollow. If we cherish every second, eternity takes shape like a melody that stretches on without end. The present is the only place we can truly touch. The past has closed like an old door. The future still lies veiled in mist ahead. Only this moment, the heartbeat pulsing, the breath warm, is the foundation on which we build what will last. When we live fully in the present, we are laying each brick for our own eternal castle. Seek it in the eyes of those we love, in today's effort, in the dreams we are chasing. Because those seemingly fragile moments, when lived with complete sincerity, become eternity enduring, radiant, and never fading. All theory, dear friend, is gray, but the golden tree of life is always verdant and fresh. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Theory, even when written with careful black ink, remains nothing more than straight lines resting quietly on white paper. Like a sky covered in leaden clouds, precise, logical, yet lacking the warmth of sunlight. Meanwhile, the golden tree of life stands vibrant, full of sap, sprouting and budding through wind and rain, constantly moving and multiplying. This contrast does not deny the value of knowledge, but reminds us that true understanding does not reside entirely in formulas or concepts. Theory can map the road, but only experience takes the steps. Theory can explain fire, but only when we feel its warmth do we truly know what heat is. Life does not operate according to perfect diagrams. It breathes, it vibrates, it surprises like sudden rain on a sunny day. Its green is not merely a color, but the heartbeat of existence, fresh, flexible, and full of hope. When we step out of the safe zone of theory to live, to love, to stumble and rise again, we are watering that tree so it can grow. And it is in that very process that we understand life is precious, not because it is perfect, but because it is alive. Learn, but never forget to live. Reflect, but never fear to step forward. Because if theory is a silent gray map, then life is a vast green forest waiting for us to enter. And when we dare to step in, we will see the golden tree of life still reaching toward the early sunlight, fresh, resilient, and brimming with promise. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. George Bernard Shaw. A strong wind scatters the dust of fear that has clung so tightly to the human mind. Mistakes, for too long, have been seen as ink stains on the pages of life. But in reality, those very stains prove that we picked up the pen and dared to write our own story. A perfectly blank page may be clean, but it is also coldly empty. This is not an encouragement of carelessness, but a celebration of the spirit of action. Those who dare to make mistakes are those who dare to move, to try, to collide with reality. They may fall, but every fall teaches them more about the ground, about their own limits, and about the hidden strength within. Meanwhile, a life spent doing nothing may avoid wounds, but it also loses every chance to grow. That is a still safety like a lake without a single ripple, yet it reflects none of the vast sky above. Mistakes are like the scars on an ancient tree. Those very scars tell the story of the storms it has weathered, the harsh winters, and the springs of rebirth. If the tree had never endured, it would never have grown strong enough to reach the heights. Humans are the same. Every failure is a lesson more vivid than any lecture. We learn how to stand up, how to adjust our direction, and most importantly, how to trust our own power to rise again. A useful life is not one without stumbles, but one that never stops moving. Dare to err, dare to correct, dare to keep going. Because in every step, even the unsteady ones, we are creating value for ourselves and for the world. And when we look back, we will understand that those mistakes were never shadows, but the very light that guided our growth. Over the years, I realized that when you are truly determined, fear fades away. Rosa Parks. It does not deny the existence of fear. On the contrary, it acknowledges that fear is as natural as darkness when the sun sets. But what makes the difference is not whether we feel afraid, but whether we choose to stand still in the shadows or light a lantern. Determination is like a stake driven deep into the ground. When we hesitate, fear grows like dark clouds covering the sky of our minds. We imagine countless scenes of failure, as though every step leads to an abyss. But once determination is firmly set, the mind stops spinning among the what-ifs. It turns toward the future and focuses on action. And strangely, that very clarity makes fear shrink, just as night retreats before the dawn. Determination is not blind recklessness. It is the crystallization of faith and will. When we tell ourselves we will do it, no matter the outcome, we have already given ourselves permission to move. In that moment, fear does not disappear entirely, but it loses its power to command. It becomes a distant whisper instead of a scream inside our chest. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act even while fear remains. Over the years, we will realize that every act of determination is a step in which we grow. And when we look back at the road we have traveled, we understand that the fear that once made us tremble has become only a memory, while determination has become the most solid part of our soul. Define success on your own terms, achieve it by your own rules, and build a life you're proud to live. Anne Sweeney. In a world that measures worth by fame, money, or rounds of applause, these words gently yet firmly declare, success is not a ready-made garment for everyone, but a piece of fabric we choose, cut, and sew ourselves to fit the shape of our own soul. Defining success on our own terms means daring to listen to the inner voice amid the noisy clamor outside. Some find success in a brilliant career, others discover it in a warm home or in quiet afternoons without hurry. When we stop comparing our journey with anyone else's, we begin to understand that our path does not need to resemble anyone else's. It is precisely that difference that creates the unique value of our lives. Achieving it by your own rules does not mean rejecting moral standards, but refusing to live by imposed expectations. It is the courage to walk at the rhythm of our own steps, even if sometimes slower or more winding, yet far more authentic. When we set our own principles for life, we stop chasing other people's finish lines. We become the creators, the ones responsible for every choice. Building a life we are proud of is the deepest reward. Pride is never loud or showy. It is the quiet peace that comes at night when we can smile at ourselves. True success lies not in the admiring gaze of the world, but in the silent satisfaction within the heart. When we live according to our own definition, every passing day becomes another solid brick, building a life worth living, radiant in its own way, enduring, and full of meaning. You are allowed to be a work in progress. Kate Winslet. In a world that worships perfection, where social media glitters with edited versions of life, we easily forget that growth is a journey, not a destination. These words open a gentle sky where we are permitted to admit we are still incomplete, still clumsy, still learning to walk more steadily. Being allowed to be a work in progress means accepting that every crack in our soul is not a sign of failure, but a gap through which understanding can enter. We are not a motionless stone statue in the square, but warm clay still being shaped by the hands of time. Every mistake, every detour, every sleepless night of worry is a necessary chisel stroke that gradually reveals our true form. When we stop blaming ourselves for not being good enough yet, we open our hearts to real progress. The right to patience. Patience with ourselves, like a gardener patiently waiting for the seed to sprout. No one blooms overnight. Growth is the result of countless quiet days of effort, of tiny steps forward that we sometimes do not even notice. When we understand that we are allowed, the pressure of perfection melts away, making room for faith and compassion. Instead of demanding that we shine instantly, let us give ourselves time to grow. Cherish today's version of yourself, even with all its lessons still to learn, because this very version is laying the foundation for who you will become. And in that journey, every step, no matter how slow, carries meaning. You do not need to be perfect to be worthy. You only need to keep going. With God's help, I will do it. In those words lie faith, humility, and the inner strength drawn from a deep well of belief. When a person stands before a great challenge, they may tremble, they may doubt, but when they believe they are not walking alone, fear slowly gives way to resolve. This is not surrender, but the harmony between human will and sacred trust. I will do it, that is the commitment of action, of responsibility. With God's help, that is the acknowledgement that our strength does not come only from our hands and mind, but also from a spiritual light that supports us when we feel weak. That faith is like a mast in the open ocean. Waves may rise high, winds may howl, yet the ship never loses direction. In the journey of life, there are moments when reason alone cannot comfort us and experience cannot guarantee success. In those times, faith becomes the anchor that keeps the soul from drifting. It helps us stand firm in adversity and see meaning in every trial. And strangely, when we believe, we become stronger than we ever imagined. Human beings are not solitary creatures adrift in a vast universe. We can find strength in faith, in connection with the sacred. And when we dare to declare, I will do it with a heart full of trust, we have already taken a long step toward victory, not only victory over circumstances, but victory over the doubt within ourselves. The only place where your dream becomes impossible is in your own thinking. Robert H. Schuller. A beam of light cuts across the dark sky of self-doubt. People often fear high mountains, long roads, challenges that seem beyond their ability. But before the world ever says impossible, our own minds have already whispered it. And if that whisper is not recognized, it becomes an invisible wall imprisoning our aspirations. Dreams were never meant to have limits. They soar like birds' wings, stretch wide like oceans. Yet, when we begin to doubt ourselves, we clip our own wings. Questions like, am I good enough? Or, do I deserve this? Slowly turn into chains binding our will. The irony is that this wall is not built of brick and stone, but of negative thoughts. And because it is invisible, we easily forget that we ourselves can tear it down. This does not deny the difficulties of reality, but highlights the power of the inner world. When we change the way we think, we change the way we walk. A trusting mind sees opportunity in every challenge. A doubting mind sees only obstacles in every opportunity. The difference lies not in the circumstances, but in how we interpret them. If there is one place that must be explored first, it is not the outer world, but the world within. When we learn to believe in our own ability, dreams are no longer distant. They become goals, plans, and action. And when thought is freed from fear, we realize that what was once called impossible was only a shadow cast by our own minds. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Eleanor Roosevelt. It offers no soft comfort to ease fear. Instead, it kindles a flame of challenge in the heart. If you want to grow, you must step across the boundary you yourself have drawn. People often build invisible walls around themselves. We say, "I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I wasn't born to do that." At first, those thoughts are only thin threads, but gradually they weave into ropes that bind our will. And then we grow used to our safe little cage, forgetting how vast the sky outside truly is. These words are like a gentle push at our back, forcing us to take one more step even if we tremble. It is precisely when we do what we once thought impossible that we finally see the hidden strength inside. Just as muscles only grow when tested, courage is forged only when we face what we fear. The first time speaking in front of a crowd, the first time chasing a big dream, the first time standing up to defend our beliefs, all of these are leaps beyond our old limits. And in the moment we accomplish what we once believed impossible, a new version of ourselves is born. We step forward, accept risk, accept the possibility of failure, but it is that very act of stepping forward that gives life meaning. Because if we only ever do what we are already sure of, we will remain forever in the same place. Yet when we dare to attempt what once seemed beyond our reach, we expand the borders of who we are. Let fear become the map that shows exactly where we need to go. On the other side of impossible lies growth, pride, and the profound realization that the greatest limit was never in our circumstances, but in how we saw ourselves. And when we cross that line, we do not merely finish a task, we redefine who we are.